couple of years ago, something shook up your world and challenged your belief system.
Yeah. In 2023, 3rd of October, I was in hospital suddenly and I couldn't speak anymore and they didn't know what was going on. Full panic attack. It felt like I was drunk and I had a hangover at the same time. It was really strange. So I stop and I sit and I realize this is not good. And then lying on the bed, still getting the question, are you fine? And I just answered, yeah, everything is fine. And that's me. I'm always fine. And sometimes you can believe something and you can shake that box and say, I don't believe it anymore, you throw it away. But then later in life, even though you change your beliefs and you had experiences, suddenly that box comes back to you and says, remember this? For me now, this is a superpower, but was I prepared? I have no idea.
Alja.
Yes.
Alja, welcome on the Firesiders podcast.
Thank you so much.
So I decided to write down a quote that I found online, something that I think is a good way to start with your story. And so if you'll permit me, I will read it because I cannot remember it
I'll give you permission.
Okay. So it's a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. And it goes as following. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. And so I ask myself, in what stage of a person's life do you think these values change?
Wow, that's a beautiful one. I haven't read that quote yet from him. There are many aspects I think that can happen and do push somebody in changing or looking for new pathways. But that still is a very, very broad way of, like, there are many boxes you can open there. I think if I would say it for my experience again, I don't know, my belief systems. Sometimes you can believe something and you can shake that box and say, I don't believe it anymore, you throw it away. But then later in life, even though you change your beliefs and you had experiences, suddenly that box comes back to you and it says, you remember this? And it can be actually, oh my God, I had it all the time. I knew it all the time and I just pushed it away because you wanted to change something. Sometimes knowing something already is already just good enough to trust it. But it's also good sometimes to go and explore. But at the end, you always come back to that core and center.
My question was about, like, when does anybody suddenly change their belief? You think that maybe it's not a sudden change, it's just a recall.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Interesting.
Some people, they find themselves, they didn't know something and they found it along the way. But I think they knew it, they shook it up, they found it back again. Or some they have it and they stick to it. Yeah, I think those options are, yeah.
When somebody remembers again, like what they believed in before and then for a while not, and then again, like, where does that come from? Belief.
I'm thinking because I have, I think it's like being just rebellion a little bit, because I think you're like shaking it up, or you don't want to see it immediately because you think maybe disappointment came in because you adapted this belief and you see that it's not working. So I think that could be a change of suddenly disbelieving, no hope, or you want any change. So you think this is not working for me, I need something else. That I think could be one of the possibilities why it's going into, like, let's say, not needing it anymore and pushing it away. It's like your parents, for example, you rebel.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you realize, like, yeah, but they were good. And
so belief is really about what you need.
I think at that moment, yeah. Also to explore
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Also rituals. I think there's a lot of, in rituals, there's a lot of belief. I think believing is a word that has a lot of layers. So yeah, we can go for hours there that I know about belief. Oh my God, been brought up with a very religious family. Belief is always there. Trust, believe, name it. Yeah.
Love it. We're definitely going to talk more about it.
Okay.
Because as I understand it, a couple of years ago, something shook up your world.
Yeah.
And challenged your belief system.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah.
Can you tell us more about this?
I can tell you a lot about it. Let's start from the beginning. So I think I had my first symptoms coming up, and also that is very interesting because I used to be coach, lifestyle coach, yoga teacher, Pilates teacher, helping people to lose weight, to gain weight, to be stronger mentally also. I was also on the top of my game. Not saying I'm not today, but in a different way.
Okay.
But I was much more physical, exploring myself there. And that's the one thing I realized, that my belief system there also changed, because belief systems can be so much more than just a thought or mental. You also have this physical part, and that physical body that also shows you that if you change your mental state or your game or your structure or routine, that your belief system there can also change. And so coming from that, being very healthy, being very like physically very good, strong, coming into like sort of little troubles with the physical, like left leg doesn't work that well, left arm, turning a lot, forgetting names, forgetting like that I asked a question and repeating it for 3-5 times in a full class. You can imagine that I was, luckily I had the best, how I say that, leerlingen. Students. Right. They were very, very like patient, but also realizing that suddenly when you get sick and sicker and sicker, that your mind and your body, they are the same, but also there's a very big difference in there. So you have to be aware that although we are one whole, there's still the one that also communicates differently. The mental part. Your mental part can be much more stronger and different than what your body wants. So, and then indeed, when I got those signals and suddenly walking was very hard, yeah, things were getting worse. And then in Bali, I guess 2023, 3rd of October, I was in hospital suddenly. And well, not suddenly, because before I left to Bali for 2 months, there were signals, and I went to neurological doctors and my doctors, and the things that they saw, but it was not really clear. It was vague, and I slept a lot. I remember, like, yeah, your life changes completely. Working was not like a priority anymore. It was more sleeping, getting rest, feeling better. Talking was difficult. Like a lot of signals that says like there's a problem. And then in Bali, I remember I thought like, okay, I need just rest, but I didn't. I want to see Bali. I took the scooter and I just humped on the scooter and I jumped. Sorry, humped is a wrong word. I'm not humping scooters. Oh my God, cut this
you
one.
You kind of are if you sit on it and you're driving. Anyway, different story.
Goodness Christ. Okay, no. So, and I jumped on the scooter and I was trying to go for a full tour in Bali. And then, stranded in the hospital.
What happened?
What happened? Yeah, so I was driving, and then suddenly the first stop I did, I felt very dizzy, and I didn't really know from what it was. Everything was like turning, and the noises were like far away and it went all the way around. So I heard noises from the right going to the left, and it was really a big chaos, but I thought it was maybe the food, maybe I'm tired. So I ate something, I drank something. But then I remembered when I wanted to go to the toilet, I had to grab every chair and every wall because it was
as if you were drunk or something.
Yeah, something. It felt like I was drunk and I had a hangover at the same time. It was really strange. So I said, okay, you know what? You're gonna drive. You'll make it. And I start driving, and my first signal was when I lost my hands on the steering wheel. It was like for a second, or 2-3 seconds. I don't know what it was, but it was like just a moment, and I slipped to the left, and then I took it back, and I was like, something is going on, but I don't know what.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, and then it started raining. I think the rain really saved me because it started to rain and I didn't have a helmet with in Bali, it's all.
So it gave you permission to stop.
yeah, so because it was raining so hard, you can't see anymore because you have to do this with your eyes all the time. So that was already not so good also with the whole thing that was going on. So I stopped, but when I stopped, I was like in a sort of a little sheltered thing with a lot of other people. And I was still there looking and saying hi to people, like your mental state is so strong. But then I think I remember also that I saw myself from another like
Perspective or something.
I was not in my body.
Out
It
of
was,
body experience kind of thing.
totally not here.
Yeah.
It was like, the fish eyeball, the fish lens.
Yeah.
That sort of state, like, but then, yeah. So, and then I still, in that moment, I thought, you'll be fine. You can drive a little bit further. But I think it was just something that told me, like, you got to go a little bit further. I drove, I think maybe 1 kilometer later, stopped raining, but then it started raining again a little bit. So then I thought I'll stop again. So I stop and I sit and I realize this is not good. You know what? Just check if you can have a hotel here, because normally I had to drive 2 hours more.
Also, you're traveling with a scooter and going from hotel to hotel and kind of doing the island or whatever.
Exactly. And then everything went wrong. When it was in the hotel, I couldn't speak anymore. And they didn't know what was going on. I think I said salt, sweet. I thought maybe I need something salt or sweet, but full panic attack, shut down on my nervous system. I couldn't really walk on my left leg properly. And then they saw, okay, there's a problem. And then that night, I thought just eat something, because when you lie down, everything is really okay.
Okay.
Everything's fine. But when you just lift your head, everything starts again. Like not a little bit, but it's like full on 100%. So, okay, I said, let's eat something. So the guy from the hotel, the owner, gives me food. Didn't work. Go to the toilet, have to vomit. I think maybe it was the food I ate, the drink I had, the first drink I had this morning. It was maybe not good, it happens in Bali. But then realizing that next morning I wake up, I thought, I woke up and it felt really nice because I felt so peaceful. It was beautiful as well. I think the light was, never saw a sort of light like that. It was like pink and yellow and light green. Everything seemed so peaceful. And I tried to go to the toilets. And the same thing just happens again. So then I called, same. And then I called the owner of the hotel. I said, I need to go to hospital, I think. I remember calling friends in Belgium and they said, just call the hospital. I said, okay. And then when they picked me up, that was when everything, just realizing that it was get to the worst part. My whole left side was paralyzed, so I couldn't walk at all on my left side.
By the time the ambulance arrived in the hotel.
And they had to drag me with 3 persons out of bed.
Oh my God.
Then, yeah, so that was a spicy moment. And then being in a hospital, lying on the bed, still getting the question, are you fine? Is your left leg fine? And I just answered, yeah, everything is fine. And that's me. I'm always fine. Everything is okay. Yeah. Everything is fine. But then after the 3rd time, they really looked at me like, are you sure? And then I realized, oh, fuck, yeah, my left leg was totally paralyzed. No, not everything is fine. And then they put me in the hospital for 3-4 days. And that was the story.
What is
a long story?
The conclusion of the diagnosis, which is something you haven't told us yet.
No. The conclusion, there is so... In Belgium, the doctors here don't want to really say it is what it is they diagnosed in Bali, because we didn't see you. But all evidence is there that there's damage in the brain. Then the other doctor says, but maybe it's a conversion disorder symptom.
Can you explain this?
A conversion disorder. This is what I'm diagnosed with now. Conversion disorder is a disorder that happens in your neurological system when you have, let's say, an overdrive on your nervous system because of stress or psychosomatical extent, too much trauma maybe as well in the past that you just suppress, or things happening that I explained to you before as well. When for me now this is a superpower, but because now I recognize when somebody does bad for me, that is not really putting me in a safe space on my neurological level, that my body will say and react on certain things, stress or bad vibes or moods from people that I really pick up very, very fast because I'm very hypersensitive. So I pick it up, I feel it, and I actually want to reject it. But what does my nervous body do? And when my body does, it keeps it in and it stays stuck. So it releases into seizures. And seizures are like sort of epileptic small seizures. And the last one was a real epileptical.
Let's take it a step back because in my notes, I have that it's a stroke.
Yeah.
But you're not saying the word stroke. So what am I not understanding about this? Because the general term in English is a stroke, and it means that there is a sort of short circuit to the brain.
Yeah, that happens.
Is
also.
it a lack of oxygen in the blood?
Well, the thing is,
or how can we define this in a more universal term for people to understand
what a stroke
before we dive deeper into what it all means?
So a stroke indeed can be two things. So you have a stroke that happens by oxygen shortage. Yeah, that means that there's maybe a vein in your neck or in your brain or somewhere else that doesn't have enough oxygen to go through, or it's too small or too tight, or there's something that is not really going through properly. And then when there's an oxygen shortage, of course, there's a couple of brain functions that will just shut down. Yeah, it's like being in a room with an air conditioning going full on, closing all the windows, all the doors, but then it can be too much and the heat in there is too high and it can explode. So it will shut down brain functions and parts of the brain. But then you have blood clots. Yeah, so it can be a blood clot that can go through or cannot go through easily because there's something going on in a vein. And that can also lead to a damage, meaning that their blood and the oxygen also cannot go through properly, but that can be like a little explosion and can also cause blood to flow in the brain, which is not good, of course. Those are two options.
Yeah.
For me, they could not check it because in Bali, they didn't have the equipment to do that.
What kind of equipment are we talking about? Like MRI?
No, MRI. We did an MRI.
Okay.
And they saw damage. They just couldn't see what it exactly is. So they need an EEG scan, and they didn't have that there. If I'm right, I don't want to say something wrong, but they told me go back to Belgium. But I had like 3 weeks left, and I was like, you know what?
What did you do?
I just stayed there. I was like, come on. Why the 3 weeks? I was saving up for so long.
How long were you there before this happened? Only a couple of days or something?
No, I was there, when I was in hospital, I was there the halfway through, so 1 month. And then I was in hospital for 3-4 days. And then I still had like, let's say 3 weeks and a couple of days. And then I was like, you know what? I'll just stay here. Doesn't matter. Take my flight back and then we'll see. And found a nice place to rest and to recover in a way, which was good. Yeah.
How did the rest of your travels look like in Bali?
Oh, I just stayed in a very beautiful house. Still very grateful that I found it, and it gave me so much peace. And I think also thinking about everything, and you know, it was really actually. I think it's a better thing than I had to go back to Belgium and probably not really coming back peacefully, because I think if I would come back from hospital in the middle to Belgium and everybody in full panic, and I think it would have been a little bit more of stress than, yeah.
Mentally, how did you then sort of prepare coming back to Belgium? Because probably you thought, you know, something big has happened that you're going to have to look at. How did you prepare mentally to go back to Belgium, and what happened next?
How did I prepare? Was I prepared? I have no idea. I just.
Well, obviously you were thinking about it, and
no,
you
I
took
wanted
your time.
To stay, of course, yeah.
But you had like, I don't know if you were there with other people or if you just traveling
I was totally
solo.
alone.
So you have time to reflect upon
that.
what happened.
No, I did
what
that.
was
for
the
sure.
what did you reflect upon? Can you remember still?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I remembered that I knew, like, oh yes, yeah, of course. My God, it all comes back. I was in hospital, and I remember I was there for 3-4 days. The only thing I had was my phone. and the nurses that passed by. But I also realized, so what happens actually is when you get like this near life to death experience, it opens up so much of the things you have done for yourself that you were lacking for yourself, in a way of how people treated you and how you treated people. The persons you hear that moment and really call you or text you every day to check in on you. People that don't call you and check in on you while you have been thinking that are friends. That changed a lot. Wow. And especially like that person gives me this and I give 2 times more back, or I always gave. Suddenly realizing the strings you were pulling instead of the strings would pull by both sides. Suddenly realizing who was there for you. Yeah. But like next level. You, and also how some people don't have this ability of empathy. And it's so, yeah, I don't know. You're so rushing. And when you gone through that, you're like, wow, I didn't know that some people really don't have this feeling of, I would even go, if that would be my worst enemy, I don't know, if I would go like to the hospital, you're fine. Okay, good. You know what? You know what happened, but doesn't matter. But just like, you're there, that person you can go there and just check up on them or just say, how you doing? You okay? Okay, fine. But just knowing that there's a connection of humanity in a way. And I think I realized suddenly that speaking up for yourself and really not shutting yourself down, trusting your words, and you don't have to say that in rude words like you bitch or blah blah blah, or you don't have to do that, but more in a very open-hearted way, just explaining and saying what hurt you, or just saying like, this disappoints me, because I never did that before. I think that was something I didn't do as fast as I should have done, because probably that also caused all the stress in me. Yeah.
Have you ever watched Better Call Saul? I don't know if you watch a lot of episodes or series. So
it's about a lawyer, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So you have Breaking Bad, which is like the main popular show, and then in that show is a lawyer. His name is Saul. Better Call Saul. They made a separate show from it, and in this show, the brother of the main actor has a condition which is hypersensitivity to everything electrical. So what does he do? He shuts down all the electricity in his house. He wears tinfoil hat,
right?
And he goes full on, and and he goes to get his condition researched. And in science, there isn't really anything that kind of backs him up, so it's kind of his word against the rest. And, he is forced to explain his condition, and some people aren't believing him. And when you can't get a proper diagnosis, that's why I think you can hear me coming, is that something that, you encountered as well? Because you didn't, people like to have a proper diagnosis. For example, if you went to Bali and you crashed your scooter and you lost your leg, you come back, no one's going to tell you still have 2 legs when you only have one. But when the problem is in your head, literally, like not necessarily in thoughts, but in physical brain, no one sees it.
No, I know. And that's the problem.
And you look normal.
Yeah, I know.
So do you think some insensitivities from your closed circle that you're talking about could be linked to not being able to understand what is happening to you?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's, I'm not judging people when they see me and they're like, oh, but you look so normal. I'm not judging them, because yes, of course, I totally look normal. I also will do everything in my life to look normal. And even if I would have 1 leg, I would still go to the gym. You know what I mean? It's more about the awareness of other people, knowing that we shouldn't just judge. Even if you would see it on the outside that somebody has a mental problem, I always say, please don't judge. Because I always think like, it's beautiful. to see that there is a mental problem. I always think like it's so, like they're different, and it's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just being themselves. Some brains are made differently, and mine, for example, indeed, I feel it. There is damage in the brain on my thalamus. You can see that.
Can you pinpoint it, or
It's
can
a
you
little bit
explain?
more to the back here.
Okay,
somewhere.
and do you know what the function of this part of the brain actually has, or
Yeah.
just trying to
Yeah.
to understand the backstory?
Well, the right side, for example, so the brain works in crisscross the whole body, actually.
Right, with the creativity and the,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And we also like, for example, as a yoga teacher, you learn about parallel body sides. Also, you have muscles and fascia that works crisscross, which is very interesting. If you also know the energy lines, they also work crisscross. So nothing is in one line. Everything goes in like a sort of a spiral. And that's also how your brain and your energy lines work. So the right brain, especially, and I don't know exactly all parts. I just know that the thalamus, for example, the right side that has been damaged, will affect my left side. For some, if you have the left side damage, your speaking and showing emotions will be damaged. And left side is feminine, the feminine side. Right side is a masculine side. So my right side is damaged in my brain, meaning that my left motorical side is also a little bit damaged, but my senses especially. So if you would push on my arm or my leg as hard as you can, I cannot feel it.
Which side?
The left side.
Still now?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you would go full on.
So if you do this, like you wouldn't feel it, or?
Well, I didn't test it.
I would advise you to do either.
No,
I'm just curious.
Some like chicken bums I can still feel. Like when I get, for example, when I am in the gym and I'm running, if I would focus on my left side, it's like I'm doing nothing. I can run for miles. But on my right side, it's taking everything on. I feel everything on my right side. So the overcompensation is happening. So I don't feel anything on my left side. So I don't get the brain signals, or you're doing too much there.
But you get it extra hard from the side who's taking all the, who's feeling, was feeling.
Yeah. And sometimes it hurts much more on the right side. So there's like a overcompensation there. So that damage, some neurological doctors, they believe it can be restored, but it's already there quite a bit, I think. Because it's happening already 3-4 years that all the signals are coming up. And I had in 2019, I already had like an incident like that, but it wasn't that severe. So maybe it was like a smaller and it just went bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what is going on there. But so yeah, this is my body that I've been working on for 3-4 years. And I only realized that when I was actually in Bali, that there's something wrong with my left side, because I finally had time to sleep. Finally had time to rest and to think about myself and go back to yoga class. And then I think I cried so many times in classes because I was like, what's going on? I cannot feel my left side. If I try to push on my left arm, I'm collapsing. Still till this day, it happens that my left leg doesn't really go full on, but it's getting better. You know, I'm working out, I'm doing whatever I can, and just, listen to it. That's all I can do. Yeah.
There's something that I don't understand, and I think it's based on the way that I understood stroke, which is very basically looking it up quickly on Google, you know, because I never had it. But it always seemed to me that like a stroke is something that happens
when you're old,
out of the blue.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that not only did you feel it coming, but you had a previous smaller episode where you felt it coming as well. And the question I want to ask you is, what is happening to your life on a deeper level, you know, leading up to this event where your body decides to send you a very strong signal that something must change? What had to be changed?
Wow, a good question. Definitely me myself had to change. First of all, a stroke can happen in 1, 2, 3, but sometimes strokes can also give you signals. Sometimes strokes can be like it can happen that the first signals of strokes, some people have it, they cannot talk suddenly for a while, or they start losing their speech, or eyesight is getting worse, or indeed walking is more difficult, or your motorical. So it can come in 1, 2, 3. But there's a lot of also people who have been getting all those signals before. So for some doctors, it's still another unknown factor what happened to me. But exactly what you say is like what would change or what has to change when you've been gone through that. And for me, it was more myself, protecting my energy, my connection with people, knowing immediately, intuitively, like this person is good for me, or this person will only bring me more neurological damage or trauma, which I already had enough. So I think, to be honest, it gave me like, it's like somebody just hit my back and said like, now it's time to be you. You know, it's like, I didn't listen well enough. And then somebody said like, now we have enough. Now you're going to listen to yourself and you're going to do just what you want.
So you think that is the I'm searching for the origin.
Mm-hmm. The origin from where it came, you mean?
Yeah. So like if you're, if you have a heart attack.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, yeah.
If you have a heart attack.
From food
it's something that can happen to you without a moment's notice. Yeah. Mm. You're talking about that in your physical experience over the last couple of years, there had been signs. So I think we're not only talking about a physical thing, we're also talking about a mental thing.
Yeah, no, of course.
And so my question to you is, which you in part answered, is, where does it come from? And if I understand it right, you're saying that you were listening more to other people than to yourself. And, you can divide these things up because when you are younger, I guess, you haven't really found your voice yet, or maybe you haven't really found your identity yet. Yeah. And, you're still forming it. So it's not necessarily connected, but it feels like it's connected for you.
Yeah, I think I'm getting your question. So let's go back there. When I was small, I always said I want to be an artist, but people laughed at it like it was cute. But my dad always draw very beautiful, studied architecture. So I always looked up as my dad as a painter, drawer. Did academy when he came in Belgium. I mean, he had the talents and I really loved it. So I kept drawing and learning from him. And I always said I want to be an artist, which was always so cute, But now what do you really want to do, So I always said something ridiculous, but nobody wanted to take me serious. I said always, I'll rule the world, or I'll make my own island and with all the people I want to live in or whatever. So I always made something really ridiculous that people laughed because I knew like, okay, I really want to be an artist. So, and then I did art school eventually after all the schools that my parents wanted me to do. Showed them I can do it, but I don't want to. So I kept being bad in school at a certain moment. I did whatever they wanted, but then suddenly they're like realizing, okay, maybe, you know what, it's fine. You can do art. I finally got it. But then it was a little bit too late. So my energy and my, like everything was like already like in a sort of a disappointed way. So, okay, I did arts and I loved doing arts. And then eventually, of course, this society and arts, it's not so easy, right? So it's still always like a very struggle for some artists. And I was very young, so I started traveling when I was 18, working a lot, traveling, discovering the world, because I also love to travel. And then eventually I had an own organization, and I organized stage opportunities for artists, musicians, which I really loved. I love to support artists. Because I love to see talent, and I see talents and I give them a little push in the back. So actually what I actually always did was put myself behind, giving people the chances. But for me, it was like, I can't, because I was so programmed when I was small, you can't be an artist because it's not normal. But when I always admired people when they did that. So I was always like, okay, cool, when you have a talent, yes, you should do it. And then suddenly realizing, even though I went being a yoga teacher, which I also would love because it happened with a hobby and I do yoga for such a long time. Suddenly I was giving class and teaching people, which was also a passion that I just shared. Again, supporting other people, meaning seeing the power in other people, pushing them into their own power and seeing the abilities that they didn't see in themselves. Beautiful job. And now actually after the stroke, if I'm coming back to your question, I'm realizing now I think I have to look towards myself now. Mm-hmm. It's time to see my strengths, time to see my talents, time to, still supporting all my people around me. Definitely. Rule number one. Definitely.
Let's say that you didn't have this stroke,
Yeah.
this kind of moment in your life that you pushed you
Mm-hmm.
to realize your true potential.
Mm-hmm.
What if you didn't have that stroke? Like, what would have your life looked like?
Whew. I think I would just have been teaching yoga and Pilates and being a coach. I think because
Serving people.
Yeah, because I think if my body would still have been healthy and like I said, on top of my game physically, I definitely would have been keep going and teach because it was really something I love to do.
And kind of going back, so you go to that hospital in Bali and you were there alone and you were there for 4 days, and you wake up there the first morning, like, what are your thoughts? What do you remember what you were thinking or how you were feeling?
Yeah, every morning was like I woke up. Every morning was the first thing is I wake up. That's the only thing that comes in your mind. I'm still here. I think that was every day. It's like your mind just gives you a sort of protection shield, I think. You just keep on, next meal you ate, you enjoyed it. It's like, okay, now I feel my left leg a little bit more. Can I go to the toilet? I think I couldn't go to the toilet for 2 days because my body just was not really asking for it. And then it was like, can I step out of the bed? Just actually, it was like learning to walk for the first time. It was so thankful. It was like, it was grateful each morning, like, oh, I woke up, I feel better. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I was expecting a different answer, honestly.
What exactly?
Like, so my little sister traveled to South America when she was younger, and she had a serious health issue, and she found herself in an Argentinian, hospital with below average service.
Okay.
And they don't really have nurses there. They have like one nurse for the whole hospital who kind of goes around and does checkups. And then like at some random moment, you don't know when, a doctor shows up and tells you something in Spanish that you don't understand. And so her whole experience in that hospital was absolutely horrible, even though they were trying to save her life.
Oh, wow.
And I haven't had this type of, experience, but she has. And in parallel, I was also in India a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, and was traveling with some friends. And I went back earlier, but the other friend had malaria, and he was, also waking up in a hospital, being there for a few days, getting shit food, shit service, and he's just, laying there wondering if this is it, and luckily I don't know so many people who had shit experiences in a hospital or very just kind of like what you say, like near death experience. I think in these two examples I gave are quite near death experiences. No, it leaves a mark, and I can only appreciate your gratefulness to, that you felt there every day waking up. It's kind of inspiring, honestly. But either you're really tough inside or you really saw a second chance. I don't know, but like, how old were you? Like
33. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're just not a young girl anymore. Okay, but still, like it's
Still, yeah.
And I also don't like. I have heard that Bali is quite like good for expats, and there's I guess, more westernized. So maybe it's not to be compared with a hospital in Argentina or a hospital
But Argentina, I
in.
would say they will have hospitals. I think you have good hospitals in Argentina as well, no? Maybe she was somewhere inland.
Surely you
Somewhere.
have some good hospitals everywhere, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you land there.
No, exactly, because
Right?
I was really lucky because I think I was going to the inland a little bit further than, so I was in Uluwatu for a long time. Ubud, Uluwatu, like north, south. And there are very good ones there. Private hospitals, of course, also. And then I was actually more to the west, north, and that's a little bit more main inland, where there's a little bit less commercialized Bali, let's say. And I was actually lucky there was one not so far away. So, and to be honest, I think, of course, my heart broke when I walked for the first time in the hospital. I had the best room. Whilst you have all these Balinese people in one room with 20 people or something like that. And they were really, really kind. And I was really lucky with having this wherever I was. Because the healthcare, of course, could always be better in Bali. Yeah. Especially if you come from Europe, we're very spoiled. At the end, I think, okay, we pay for it there as well. And they know this is a Western woman. She will have this money. And they put me in the first class room. I didn't notice it was the first class room until I walked into the hallways and noticed that I was in the best room they had.
You saw the rest, yeah. Oh,
yeah. So, but no, the healthcare actually there now is also changing a little bit. So now there's going to be the first hospital built in Sanur, where also European expat doctors can work there, because it was not allowed before. It was only Balinese. And thank God, of course, sorry for your sister, I can imagine if you're like in a dead near, like a sort of a situation like me, and then nobody can talk to you, you feel so lonely. But I think humans can also give you like, if they are right humans, and like right nurses, because they didn't speak English to me, but I could really feel they were like very careful, very sweet. And I'm actually really happy it happened in Bali. But I can imagine if you have nobody to talk to, it can be really horrible.
Yeah, it's kind of like that support system. If you're not having your friends and family there, like only thing you have is the human warmth from the people who take care of you.
No, you're right. Because I think after the hospital, there's a thing, I don't like to be alone anymore that much. So I also realized like there's like thing that it's happening after also. So traveling alone is not something I really aiming for anymore. So all these things happen and they change you a little bit.
But is it because it changed you, or is it because your physical condition doesn't permit it? Or is it a combination of both?
No, I can travel alone. I think I can travel. But if I have a seizure while I'm driving again, like before, I mean, you don't want it to happen with you anymore. So it's like, you know what, if I'll be a little bit of a Russian roulette if I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'll just do whatever I want and can and do as before. But if something happens, and if I die, okay, fine, my fault. But, I think also I've been doing so much alone before. I traveled alone for many, many years. And now it's okay. I don't mind. I like to share my time. So, but I can imagine it's not nice if you don't know anybody. You have to be very mentally strong. Definitely.
That's where I was digging.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But okay, I'm so used to doing things alone. I'm so used to it.
Why are you used to doing things alone?
I think it's important to do things alone as a human being, because you never know, like these challenges, they can happen. And if you're always used to having people around you and you're suddenly doing things alone, it can always, again, be a trauma. So either way, like your habits, like, I don't know, I always like to challenge myself in knowing that I don't, being alone is, and traveling alone is very important for me. I think in everybody's life. Yeah.
Well, for the ones who know what it's like.
Yeah, also. But I have always.
I agree with you, because I travel alone as well. But not everybody knows what it's like, or not everybody has the will or the guts.
No.
To do it.
No, for sure.
It's different to travel with company. For sure, it is. I can only.
You don't take people for granted anymore as before. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
then when you have company, you feel it's really genuine company, because it can also be fake, shallow company.
And then you better be alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I feel like when I meet a partner, it's the same thing. You feel that the partner is genuine with you. You feel it's so much more worth than having a partner you don't like or something like that. So traveling alone opened my eyes, but really opened my eyes with knowing where your energy will flow. Yeah.
Is there a part in your education that to thank for your independency? Is it something that you were taught, like you must be able to take care of yourself because, you know, X and Y?
You're really digging deep into my past here.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
that's what I'm here
It's
for.
an emotional thing here. Yeah, I think my parents really, they always brought me up. I was second, so my sister is first. She's 1 year older. I'm second, and my brother is third one, but he's the only guy. So he get all the attention with the football. My first sister, you know, the first child always has this proof sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm the first one of three.
There you
I know.
go. So you probably have that as well, no? Like you want to prove that you can, you know, you have to prove yourself somewhere to your parents and to...
Yeah, but it's not that I want to. It's that like if you don't prove anything, they just say no. You know, like if you want to go out or do things, you know,
you get to know
like
first.
you have to prove to them that they can, you know, trust you and that you're responsible enough and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And by the time the third one comes out, you know,
they can do whatever they want. Exactly. Well, I was a second, but I was the one who like, my dad was like, gave all the attention to my first sister because she was very good in studying and, you know, she proved herself a lot. Was a little bit stricter to her, of course. And I was like, I knew it and I saw it, but I was a little bit more rebellious. And I had a different way of experience my world than my sister. So all the pressure was on my sister and on my brother because he was a footballer and a boy, so he could do whatever he wanted. And I was like in between. Like when my dad was already busy with my sister, he was too tired to do my homework. You know what I mean? So it was like already like, oh yeah, we'll be okay, you know. But my sister was full on energy, and with me it was like a little bit more less because I was tired. So I think I was more independent already when I was small because I realized like how the structure a little bit worked and how people were more advantaged of their being a boy or, you know, being the first. So I always made my own little world when I was small. And also like the fact that people didn't want to believe I wanted to be an artist. So I tried to make up a situation for other people to believe that I am.
Did you feel undervalued as being that person? I'm trying to dig deeper in the sense like, where does this sense come from that you always want to help people? And
the people-pleasing thing. Yeah, I'm gonna go there.
Yeah, instead of helping yourself. Like, I think there's a link.
Yeah, we talked about that. I think the people-pleasing, I think it's more because probably I saw that I needed help a little bit more help from my parents that I didn't get because I couldn't really ask about it because they were tired, you know, blah, blah, blah. Or I don't know what the situation exactly was, but a little bit, but it's another story. I think for me, helping people was something when I was small, a natural thing that I always did for everybody around me. I like to help people. I don't mind helping people if it's possible. I always think like, for me, it's maybe a little bit naive, especially when I was small, I did a wrong thing.
How you define naive? Because I see it as something positive.
It is positive until you take the wallet of your parents without thinking it would be bad and taking a lot of money from the wallet and give it to a friend who couldn't go on a holiday with a school trip. Yes. And I didn't realize it. It was bad. I was so young and I was think 7 or 8.
Yeah. And you just wanted to help your friend.
I wanted to help a friend because she was so sad. She was like, I cannot go on a holiday trip with my school because my parents don't have money. I said, you know what? I'll fix it. I gave it to her. There was a big drama after, of course, because of a lot of money. I think it was maybe, I don't know, 300 euros or 500 euros.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kudos to you for pulling that off at such a young age.
Yeah, I was really...
Real con artist.
I think I gave the bank card of my mom, the bank account of my mom. I don't know, but I think it was just like people want to help, I want to help you. Let me help you. Is it people pleasing? Maybe. But when you're small, you don't know what people pleasing is, I think.
That's exactly where my question is coming from, because I think ultimately, you're a product of your environment.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to kind of create a link between who you are now and who you were then, and what shaped you.
I just like to help. I don't know. I don't really take big, let's say, I don't think like materialistical things, or I like beautiful things, but I don't take that much effort into having a house or into having an apartment or something like very big and huge. Or I'd rather help people. That feels for me something that I enjoy more, but not all the time. Like, like I said, also, it was for me, like, I can help, but if I see the people are taking advantage of it, I would definitely also put a boundary. So when I feel like this is possible and there's like a beautiful interaction there with giving and taking, or I can give you more and you don't have to give me back because it's okay, then for me, there's no need into expecting things, because I think it's always like a natural. I think the whole world is made up with this energy of giving and taking. There's nothing more than that. If you have a knowledge, for example, I think a friend of mine who did Bitcoin, it was like, yeah, there's a knowledge and you cannot just share it with everybody. And I talk about yoga like it's a knowledge that's open and free for everybody. It's an energy exchange. And he said to me one day, but why do you spread it open that wide? You can't just spread it out, because people will take it away from you and they will take advantage of it for themselves. I said, yeah, but that's okay. But this is the world's energy. We cannot just make a patent on breathing. You know what I mean? It's giving and taking. It's being alive, being there for each other. And I think for me, that is a natural thing for me.
I really love that you said that, because it's the perfect way to start connecting points in your story.
Yeah.
And so after, if it's okay with you to close off the chapter of, this horrible or
maybe beautiful,
but intense, situation.
An eye opener.
You were forced to look at your life in a different way and to change your main activities. And one of the first things that you decided to do was to start a podcast.
Yeah.
Which is also about, sharing, giving and taking.
Information, emotions.
Yeah, and a balance, just like we're sitting here, we're exchanging,
Yeah.
I love the link. And so I want to ask you more about, what led you to do this podcast, what you get out of it, and also what you chose to do with the podcast, like what the themes are and how they're linked. There's a lot of questions I'm asking at one time, so I'll, if it's too much, I'll try to ask again. But basically, I'm very curious about this new chapter of your life that emerged from what I guess you could call darkness.
I think it started intuitively by being in a hospital. And, well, first things first, so I have this conversion disorder, right? I'll go, let's say, backwards. So I meet a doctor, Matthias Smith. He's a very interesting guy, and I met him. A lot of people know him from the television during Corona, because he was he's a very intelligent and also going a little bit against the stream. I talked about him, about my condition and about whatever happened and my conversion disorder after I was diagnosed. And he already saw really bad patients, like I had to go for therapy in his hospital for 2 years and these things. So he knew about my condition very well. And he always said, so I explained him how I feel, what I do, blah, blah, blah. And what I actually also, I'm very expressive and I'm very aware of my body and my needs and my mental state of my emotions at a certain moment. And I also explained at a certain moment, I feel the urge to speak about a lot, much more than before. I don't know what it is, but it's taking over a little bit. I feel that I want to even if it hurts people, I don't care anymore. I want to express myself. And he said and told me it's not abnormal, because a lot of people who are diagnosed with your condition are mostly people who are actually always saved themselves or saved other people by not speaking their truth or not expressing themselves. So it's actually more sacrificing themselves in a way of keeping the peace, keeping harmony, making people happy. And also there you go again into people pleasing. But it was also more of probably also energy protection, because if I speak out, there will be drama, or there will be people not allowing you to be their friends anymore, or you will see people's true color. And I always didn't, because I was always so hopeful that people had this good person in them, which everybody has. But once you speak your truth in a way that you see that person, because you are so hypersensitive, as I always have been, and you see that people and oh, this is the darkness of that guy or girl or woman. I could say that now, that I don't like it, because I will put a boundary, but then you will lose a friendship, or you will make people angry at you, and you don't want to have this conflict. So what I always did was like, keep it professional, or like very, or let them run over you and say, I knew it, but, intuitively just not listening. And then when I was in a hospital, I remember the first thing that came up in my mind was like, you know what? I'm getting this second chance. I'm starting to learn to walk again, like for the first time. And I'm like, you know what? It's time to speak up. And I was like intuitively something that said, let's talk now. Let's get it out. Let's not keep it stuck, because what I probably did was keep people's energy that I felt already just stick in myself, and then it probably accumulates into an explosion. So what I do now is actually more really opening up, asking questions, speaking up, opinions. If I don't like you, I'll tell you. You know what I mean? If I like you, I like you. I will tell you as well. I don't mind even if you don't like me, but I will still keep my opinion open and you know what I mean?
That's nice.
Yeah. And I dare to do that, which I didn't dare before.
Mm-hmm.
And if I did it, it was always like a big drama. And after that, I kept myself close again. And I didn't do it for a long time anymore. So I really realized, you know what? It's finished. I'm going to tell the world who I am and what I think about them, and the world what I think about the world. And then the podcast idea came because I suddenly like to talk much more than before. Speaking and expressing and asking questions, digging into people's experiences that's why the podcast actually really came. Yeah.
Okay. And of course, I did some research about your podcast, and something, and this is going to go deep, so hold your heart. Mm-hmm. Why is your first podcast about narcissism? Because for me, it's really, I do this podcast myself.
Yeah.
And I choose speakers.
Yeah.
I choose subjects.
Poof.
And the first one you do is really your breakthrough moment. Like when I look at my statistics now of like the podcasts that I did, the first podcast, there's a huge spike, and then it goes down, and then it stays down for a while, and then it goes back up, and then a couple more times. And I mean, that first one was like, I started with a bang,
Mm-hmm.
I speak from experience, and I ask you the question from exactly that angle. Why you choose this?
Probably why you chose your first topic, maybe. I don't know, because I think it was at that moment I realized what abuse was and could do with your body. Abuse in a way of people in your surroundings, because I always think that health and your surroundings are one whole. Like you choose if you would have been in a rotten environment, you'll be rotten as well. So I think also that being in a surrounding where you put your heart and your trust into a man, for example, especially when you get weaker physically, and that person doesn't really think about it or has no empathy or lacking empathy. As you can also listen in my podcast, my first diagnosed ex, but not talking about my other exes. I have a couple of abusive relationships behind my back, and the last two were let's say from the narcissistic point of view, was a diagnosed narcissist. The second was not a diagnosed, but I knew immediately from the first, like, there's a link. Totally. And we did a sort of a test, and yes, narcissism came up quite high. And then I was like, also for me, like, this is a topic I want to talk about, because I've been gone through that cycle just when I had my first signals of my health problems, realizing that I was not in the right environment with the right people around me. It didn't help. And it could have maybe been better when I would have had more loving people around me that were less abusive. So I think that was very interesting, because I was doubting at a certain moment that I was a narcissist. I was like, am I the one? How is this? And then somebody sent me something, like, I post something about narcissism on my Instagram, and a friend, ex-colleague coach, sent me, hey, I know a girl, she's a narcissist coach, and maybe you should talk to her. She's very interesting. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. And then I was like, yeah, maybe we should do a podcast together. And she was open for it, and then it flowed. So I was like, okay, maybe this is just good. Let's do it. And I think it was also a curiosity, because it's something I experienced, and it was just so fresh, you know. And I was like, yeah, let's talk about it, because I think narcissism is something that is it's so underestimated. It's so like, people can also just think about, like, yeah, you're overreacting, you know.
Isn't it more like
But-
ninja?
Ninja?
Yeah, like, you know, ninja is like the some type of martial arts
Yeah.
dude or
Yeah.
girl, whatever, who is super smooth and like you never see them coming. And
Yeah. And then they're gone.
and they pull a number on you, and then they're gone, you know.
Yeah.
And like, you know, often in narcissism you talk about gaslighting.
Yeah.
So, and like
yeah.
that you are thinking you're the victim, the perpetrator, whilst you're the victim, is what I think I know about narcissism, even though that I'm not entirely sure if I know narcissistic people in my close circle.
Well, sometimes if you've been in a narcissism relationship for so long, you cannot see it anymore.
Sure. So I couldn't tell you if I'm a victim myself of having these
Experiences.
These experiences with people, but maybe you can tell us your experience in really short about what it means for you to be in a closer relationship with someone who is narcissistic.
A narcissistic relationship. It's actually, I suppress that feeling a little bit, but because I'm really looking for much more healthier relationships these days.
Suppressing?
Yeah, I cannot do that, I know, but
what are you suppressing?
Well, the fact that I met narcissism in my life, and I let them go through my life so far. You know, narcissistic people can be very beautiful as well. They can be so great in the beginning. They can be like all fun and joy, and you see such a future, and the ability to be together is real, and you feel like this is it. And then suddenly, when there's like a serious topic, for example, you hurt me, I didn't like it. Talking is not possible. You will feel you're talking to a robot, or you will feel you're talking to a lawyer, or you feel you're talking to a policeman, somebody that is doing his job to protect himself, you know, because his belief system is so high up that it's actually like talking to a little kid that kicked another kid, and you say, why did you kick him? And he says, he kicked me first, I didn't do anything, you know. It's actually but then to a grown-up. And that is something that suddenly you realize, like, why is it not possible that you can say very open and vulnerable, sorry, I see you, I feel you, I won't do that again. Why is it that difficult for grown-ups? And I think there's something that is hidden in a lot of people around you before you know. That's why I speak up now. And that's why I'm like, you know what? Let's see who you are. If I say something I didn't like about you, or there's a boundary, and I say, this is not something I'm liking, the reaction of that person will explain exactly who they are. Yeah.
So you can spot the red flags quicker.
Exactly. Yeah. But then stupid me, of course, keeps forgiving. are really like lifeless.
I don't think you should turn it that way. Like
sometimes yes, sometimes
like if
no.
somebody takes advantage of you, you can call yourself stupid, or you can call yourself what's the word I'm looking for? You said it earlier, naive.
Yeah.
But whenever you abuse willfully, someone's good intentions, it's never your fault. It doesn't. I'm not saying that everybody should be, portraying themselves as a victim if they but
you should put your boundaries up.
No, yes,
you know what
sure.
I mean?
Yes, sure. And you can only discover it by being abused, I guess, because if you don't know how to put them up, then you only put them up when you get confronted with a situation where there is no other choice but to show exactly where the line is, and like you will not go any further.
Yeah. But be careful, because when you do that to a narcissist, suddenly can also use that against you. So it was suddenly they will use your phrase, how you explained it, like I was really hurt. Like suddenly they mirror you. And I'm like, okay, if you're really hurt, I understand. But we were talking first about my hurt, and then suddenly you got hurt. So it's like, for them, it's like, why can I not say immediately then now why I was hurt? But it was like, but why didn't you tell me then? You should tell me this from the beginning. You know what I mean? This is an open, honest relationship, talking about two people respecting each other. And narcissism can turn it around.
Really tricky.
It's really tricky. So you need to be aware of, you know what I mean? It's like you bumped over a glass. Yeah, but you did that 5 weeks ago also. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean it, but won't do it again. But then you feel hurt. So it's like they keep a box of all archives about the bad things you did, but they will not say it until you say something and you have a boundary. And then
they'll use to push your bond to keep pushing your boundaries that you're trying to set. They're trying, like if you're trying to put a fence like on the ground, they're there to take the fence and make sure that you don't put it down.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It
was a weird example, but
I understand, because they don't want to lose you. But not losing you means also respecting boundaries and showing boundaries, showing them they are able to see your boundaries. And they are afraid that if you put boundaries, that they will lose you. But it's not always like that. If you put boundaries and you respect the boundaries, you will keep a person forever most of the time. Yeah. So that's why the Narcissism podcast was really important for me. Yeah.
What are the other guests you had on the podcast, and how does that fit into a bigger picture of what you want to achieve by inviting guests, or inviting yourself to their places, as you told me?
Yes, because I go to their
Yeah, you don't do it like me here at home.
No.
You go and you visit the person that you interview or have a podcast with, and you do it at their home. And what are the other themes, subjects, people that you invite to your podcast? What's the bigger picture here? What are you trying to achieve by communicating more now? Yeah,
first of all, you have an amazing podcast studio. Yeah, that I don't have. I don't have all these setups and cameras and a little more.
But all that matters is what we say.
I know.
This stuff is just,
really amazing. But still, I know.
You can buy it with money.
I know.
But what we say, you cannot buy with money.
Yeah, so I go to their places because I don't have the equipment. And for me also, it gives me a feeling that I get to know the person a little bit deeper. They're more comfortable because they're at home. I think also that will also give them a little bit more of a housey feeling, more of a secure feeling, also owning the podcast a little bit more. And it opens them up a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm not there's no scientific proof about it, but maybe that could be an option.
I think definitely if they're not media trained, yes.
Yeah.
If somebody is not used to speaking out loud, but has something really meaningful to say, creating a good framing or context can be a good idea.
Well, the first podcast was at my place though, because she came to Antwerp, and I had a very nice studio where there's a lot of light coming in, but that was not the case anymore. And now the last one was about Amadine Grulois. She's a photographer who survived anorexia. So she talked about that part, her trauma part actually, the depth of her life. And then I had another podcast with an Ayurvedic specialist, Diona. She's amazing as well. But she was really talking about her passion, and it's also about health. And also, it's more about my podcast. There's a line of trauma, self-worth, experience, also health. So actually more about really body, mind, depth, life stories. And there are tools like Ayurveda, how you can help yourself. So I like the mixture. And the next one, for example, will be also very interesting. Jorel, he's a psychologist, but he also uses psilocybin. I don't know if I'm saying it in English. So mushrooms and psychedelics,
Yes.
let's say it like that. And that will be our next up, because I have been experimenting some psychedelics, microdosing as well, especially after the brain stroke. My neurological doctor is also very open for microdosing, MDMA, a small dose of LSD. I didn't try LSD yet. So there's been some experiences, and I very interesting to speak with him soon. Yeah, that will be in May.
Interesting. I have heard, sorry, still can't pronounce the fucking word. Psilocybin. The mushrooms.
Yeah.
I've heard about these studies a lot, watched documentaries about it. And also MDMA. From what I heard, people, especially in the American army, who had been sent to Iraq, for example. We didn't say where you were from yet.
Oh, yeah.
I use a stupid example. My best friend from America went to fight in Iraq, and he came back with PTSD.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I know this. A lot of people come back with PTSD.
Of course.
Post-traumatic stress syndrome, for people who don't know what the short form is. They did an experiment because, these guys, some girls go too, but let's just say guys.
Yes,
some guys go to fight, they see horrible scenes, they come back, they have PTSD, and they cannot share with their partner what has happened. And it's like they're in a completely different world, and the one is closed off, and the other, and the partner wants to reconnect, and it's not working, and they're losing touch, and they're doing experiments with MDMA to get people to reconnect. And from what I've studied, I noticed that the mushrooms or some other forms of healing, like ayahuasca or MDMA, are slowly being reconsidered in studies and slowly being readapted within the frame of the law, depending on which country we're talking about. And because it was illegal for such a long time to even use it in a study, we don't have many researches about it. But from I'm like crazy documentary watching guy. I love, stories and real stories, and one of the many subjects I look into, and I find it interesting to hear that some people who are dealing with depression can be partially, if not fully, healed with a few sessions of mushrooms over a lifetime of swallowing pills.
Yeah.
So as I guess a huge ass side note, I do see the value in trying new ways to heal people, and I'm curious about what else you know about this.
This is a very interesting question. I think it can go both ways. I think for some people it can be very interesting, especially if you use it but don't abuse it. For some, they have the mental capacity to understand that it is a tool to help them to be self-aware what happens after and what happened before, and to also adapt to the neurological part if they have been gone through with a doctor and with the right guiding of not depending on it, but there needs to be an awareness of how to use it, when to use it, where to use it, why to use it, because I can also imagine if they are not knowledgeable enough, just experimenting on their own, being dependent on it could be a shift. And I think I'm very skeptical still. I'm not saying I'm using it every day, microdosing. I'm not just jumping into the one drug after another. I do MDMA once a year, maybe 2 times maximum.
And you do it in a controlled manner with
a friend.
superficial.
Or no.
Okay, so this is something you do as in a category of self-medication.
Yeah.
Expression. But it is with some kind of feedback from a professional.
Well, no.
Or
okay. So I didn't do it professionally yet. So the next thing also why I want to talk with the guest on the next podcast is because I'm still skeptical about some parts, because like ayahuasca, I'm still skeptical. LSD, also skeptical, because I also think like you don't know whose body you have in front of you. You don't know how the brain works at that moment. Did you do an MRI scan first? Did you check with an EEG scan first what the brain capacity or the weakness or the strength is, the neurological veins of the spine, the nervous system? So I think if you do it very guided with somebody who really digs into you first to see how much you need, because a microdosing for the one is as not so strong for the one for another one. So I think we shouldn't be going over it too easily. We can see it's actually more in an experimental phase. Like you say, your best friend, I think war and soldiers will always have been experimental cases in the 60s and earlier. Like you say, they come back and they have, there's something going on. Of course, trauma, mentally. They normally also make their soldiers stronger and stronger and stronger each time or each decade or whatever. So they reprogram them differently from the past, everything in experiment still. And I think also the psychedelics are now also still in their experiment phase. That's why I always, not really, because we always have been using them in a way, but now, so the clinical and psychedelic, trying to mix them together. I think it's beautiful, but also still for me, environment, always try to see your environment first. See you have healthy people around you. See that you have people who understand you, appreciate you, love you, you feel comfortable and home with, and your nervous system is calm. And I think a lot of people don't realize if you go and do that with a doctor, but you still go home back to an abusive household. I mean, you got to make choices, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the it's just like the the pills you get prescribed, like antidepressiva or something.
Exactly.
It's not. If you're, I don't know, cleaning people's shoes all day long. It's not because you take antidepressiva and you hate your job. It's not going to make your job like feel like heaven.
No, exactly.
You like when you talk about substances which can alter your body and your state of mind, and open yourself up for new experiences. It's just one facet of many facets that we hold as humans and in order to evolve. And each facet is maybe, look at it as like a toolbox, like the, MDMA or whatever is a screwdriver. Love is a hammer. I like that I use the hammer. Like every tool in the toolbox, has a different function.
Purpose, yeah.
And if you know how to use every tool in your toolbox, then you're a good handyman.
Yeah, exactly.
Or handy woman.
No, exactly. Yeah, as long as you can also distance yourself from it. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
That's the most important, because you don't want to have every month a necessary need to do this thing. Eventually you want to be you and good and healthy with yourself without needing that extra thing.
Yeah, it's like the good old fashioned comments that I get from my parents, which is like, you have to do everything with a certain measure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you go to McDonald's, once a month or once every 2 months, your body is going to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You probably have to sit on the toilet a bit longer one day, but
yeah.
but if you go to McDonald's every day,
then you need it every day because your body wants it. It's so addicted.
It's not only that, it's just like your
habits.
Your too much of one thing is never good.
Like your relationship, for example. If you are used to your woman hugging your woman every day in a certain way before you go to sleep, imagine suddenly she's not there anymore, or you're not there for your girlfriend suddenly anymore, somebody dies or you just break up. This habit that you need to break of doing that same thing in pattern way, it is a drug. Like emotional drug exists as well. You have physical drug, you have movements drug, like doing things too much also, like yoga and sports, and everything is a pattern. And this pattern, sometimes you need to understand, can I break the pattern myself? Am I still happy when I'm breaking the pattern? What does it do with me? And this also happens with mental health. How can I use something to push myself forward and still try without, and see, can I still handle myself without?
Yeah, interesting. The last couple of podcasts we were talking about addiction,
there you go. I love that part. Yeah,
which is what we're ultimately coming to, but that I don't necessarily want to go deeper into unless you're feeling inclined to, because we've already talked about it.
Yeah.
So I kind of, with your permission, would like to continue moving forward in your journey, because
yes, of course,
you came from doing yoga for doing maybe spiritually based physical activities. You were in contact with a lot of people. You even told me you were organizing festivals or local festivals in Antwerp. You're doing so much. Then you had your stroke. You discovered that you wanted to take control of your life and share more. You decided to make a podcast and to get into contact with people more. You really start to look at your life differently and start doing things differently. And after that, there's more. There's more things that you're doing. And I think music plays a big role into that new part.
Yes, that's true.
Can you tell us more about this?
Oh, where should I start? Yeah, music is always, as an artist, is a way of moving yourself and expressing yourself. So music was always something I wanted to do. Except when I was small, music was not allowed. We were not really allowed to watch MTV. Well, we did it, of course, and they knew we did it, but it was not like something that they allowed completely. I understand why sometimes now, of course, when you get older and you think about your kids, but so music was not really allowed, but...
Was not really allowed in the sense that it's not allowed to be a projection of future.
Yeah, we were not like...
And for work and for earning money, it's not... it falls in the same category perhaps as an artist. And I feel you.
Yeah.
I was also guided towards another creative direction that I not necessarily chose when I was younger.
No, that was?
Not necessarily. Like, I wanted to draw.
Oh, yeah.
But my parents said, you have to do graphic design because, it just...
There's a future in there.
There's more of a future in there. And in retrospect, I can't say that I fully disagree.
Yeah, they're right, probably. I don't know.
I'm not saying they're right because ultimately, I did it and I learned from it and then I just did something else. But I learned so much from it, and I learned how to use a computer to draw instead of drawing by hand. Yeah. Which,
of course, being just a drawer or a technical drawer is, there you have more money, of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But making sketches,
that was not allowed.
It's not that it wasn't allowed. It's just like when it came to go to hogeschool, to go to university, some choices had to be made, and I feel like they were made for me. Not that it's a bad thing.
No.
But I just want to agree with you about, I guess, parents from our generation.
Yeah.
and older generations, and even perhaps this generation,
Still, maybe,
who don't necessarily see the value of
Yeah.
being creative, and want to guide you towards a path that seems more sure. So anyway, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And you were also not allowed to do music
No, exactly.
and art.
Yeah, because music was not allowed in the religion. That's what they said.
Oh, it goes deeper.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
religion based. So we were only.
Can you tell us more about this? Actually, I feel like I don't understand the link between not, because in Arab culture there is music. There's
because they
so
also
much
listened
music.
to music, eh?
Yeah,
But there was Arabic music, and we were European kids. We were not listening to Arabic music. So and if there was music allowed, drums, for example, were allowed. That was something that was allowed in Islam. So Islam goes way back into what is allowed and what is not allowed. And of course, drums are allowed because they use that a lot. I'm not saying it's hypocrite, because of course there's a lot of hypocrite around it, because my mom and dad also have their favorite singers, and we still hear these songs coming up now also in new DJ sets, like Alja Al Saadi, for example. I know that song for when I was small, so like these things are coming back. I really enjoy it as well, but some songs I still like and they give me back my childhood. But no, Western music was not, because there was a lot of nudity, the words were too sexistic. So all these things, so everything
Western
you hear,
music was not okay.
And also, of course, everything you hear has an effect on you. That's what we also believe in Islam. And also in Buddhism, it also comes up, like what you hear, you have to be aware about your frequency. So everything is about frequency. The words has frequency, images have frequency. So you can be influenced by these things. It's all about influence.
A product of your environment.
Exactly. And your environment is very important. I'm not saying that they were not completely wrong. I'm saying they were a little bit too extreme in the way that I could not use any instrument. We were not allowed to go to music school. But I always went with my neighbor to music school. She was Muslim as well, though, but she was allowed to play piano. So I was always like, why them? Why us not?
Yeah.
And so that happened a lot.
Yeah.
And I always dropped her off to go to piano school every Wednesday. I remember Wednesday evening waiting for her to come out of the class. I always looked up to her because a beautiful piano. I want to play piano one day. And then I think 4 years ago, when I had an ex-boyfriend who supported me very much, that was more financially. And then I was allowed to go to do piano classes. And then I realized, wow, this is amazing. And I was so quick with it. And I felt like I came in silence with myself. And it opened up my eyes completely.
Would you say that this was a shifting moment for you?
Sort of. Not knowing what it would shift in me, but it shifted my whole perspective of how an instrument and how music and how the ability to work on your nervous system, because of course with yoga you work a lot on your body, physical nervous system, and it opens up a lot of flux. But this goes much deeper, music and notes and everything, also the ability with moving your fingers into music. And I love the way how I could challenge myself to do better. And that was so much fun. And then after, of course, it was getting a little bit too expensive. So I stopped piano classes. Yet when I think how it really started and shifted, it was when I had my first symptoms. And each year I go to Paris, for example, and I walk for many, many miles, like miles, I'm not sure how many kilometers, let's say. A lot of, let's say 20,000 steps, 30,000 steps a day. I love Paris. So I love to walk each year. I go there for a week, 3 days, doesn't matter. I come home and my feet are sore without stopping. So, and I remember when our first symptoms came, I went to Paris before Tomorrowland. And I remember I was there with a friend of mine. And the whole thing was, I hope I can manage. And my first symptoms was always walking for, let's say, a couple of streets and I had to stop, or walking through a museum and I had to pause a lot.
We're talking about right after your stroke.
No, that was before.
Oh.
Yeah, that was before. That was the first signals that I know something is going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right.
Yeah, because I could go to Paris and walk a lot and a long days. And then suddenly I feel like, okay, I need to pause for a lot of times. And Even doing naps in between, like going back to the room, doing naps, and then going back out and just eat out. So I knew like there's something wrong. A lot of tears came up as well. I remember frustration, anger. Oh my God. And then I remember Tomorrowland a couple of weeks later after Paris. I thought like, I remember I told my friend, you know what, I'll see if I can't handle it. I'll just make sure I have somebody who can drive me home or just rest. I can sit and just enjoy and see people. And then I was on Tomorrowland, really looking forward because I love to go there each year. And then I think I managed to go to Tomorrowland and at the end, be in a car, going back home and thinking, oh my God, I didn't need to rest. And I remembered that the energy I got just from seeing people play and having fun and how music really like kept me dancing because my left leg didn't feel completely 100%. But because of the positivity, I just could stand on my left leg the whole day. And I was like, okay, this does something, and this is not nothing. And I went 2 days in a row. I thought 3 days, I'm not sure anymore. But I was like, okay, I can do it, So this does something with my body and my mental state. Also after Tomorrowland, I felt I had much more joy and endurance to stand on my legs. And then it suddenly hit me like, okay, you know what? Maybe I should do something with it. Because if this helps me, and I mean, it's just a DJ. I mean, it's music and it's not just a DJ, it's also frequency. I believe that. If this does this to my body, I mean, yeah, amazing. What a power. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's dig into it. So that's why I started with some classes. And then, yeah, then the stroke happened, of course. And then after I was like, let's do it. So yeah, here we are practicing. Yeah.
So playing music on certain instruments, I guess in a more classical form is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you decided to go full on DJ.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Well,
was that right after Tomorrowland that you had this positive experience that music can actually carry you further than you expected? Did you choose that path at that moment? Was that also, part of this switch that is happening, in your life the last couple of years? This music has played
bigger role in my life. It always have been playing. It always played a bigger role in my life. I think I was not just.
But you're acting on it now.
Yeah, I'm acting on it now. It's because I also think when I did the events and I pushed all the musicians on stage and I picked the musicians who were on stage. It's like there was a big, I say that a wedstrijd.
Competition.
A competition online that we organized with a nice, I don't know the name anymore. I think VI. It's called VI.be. And we did this competition and there were so many people. I think we had like the most people signing in for the competition and just selecting. And I went through all the tracks. They all had 3 tracks coming in. And some I was like, after the first one, like, no. But some I took a 2 or 3rd chance. And then just realizing that you have this sort of ability to listen to what is a good song, you know what I mean? And to know like, okay, this is a hit or this is a successful story or they have like a good combination of their track or song. And then I realized, okay, you know what? This makes you hypersensitive also to sound. This also makes you hypersensitive to something that has a good beat, something that has a good combination or a story or emotional story in their song. Yeah, I am also move always with emotions into a song. What emotion comes up? Is it anger? Is it darkness? Is it power? Is it sadness? So as an artist, this is all that I can do. It moves my emotions. And I can shift my emotion by putting up a song. If I say I want to have happiness, I just put on a song and then it can shift my emotion very fast. So I think if you can do that and you can share it, and I feel how much you can change a person at that moment, and also ability to shift people's, let's say, cells, or it goes much deeper than that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's when I realized, okay, maybe it's something I could see where I could go with it. Yeah.
I remember asking you about this a bit earlier in a conversation.
Yeah.
You told me that No, I asked you how it was, with your condition, because you told me, and I don't think we've talked about it much yet, but you can get these epilepsy, attacks or other things, even though you say that, when you're in this music environment, you don't really feel it, like the kind of looming danger is always around the corner. And I wonder, I actually know the answer already to it, but I want you to share it in the podcast. How do you deal with this? I think it, part in my head, like if I imagine myself in your situation, I would have this forever feeling of like not knowing if I was going to make it through the night or something, without any incident. And yet you are there and fully confident and doing your thing. That's really amazing. But how do you build that sort of character?
I always think life protects you. So I think you won't get something on your table when you can't handle it. So I believe that I'll probably, lucky enough, have my body knowledge that I had from teaching and going into this physical part after all these years, that I think maybe that's a tool that I'm using, as in fact that when I know it's coming up, I will make sure that I need to rest or I need to sleep, or I will tell somebody I'm in full stress. Now, some people don't really realize they're in stress. They're in full stress all the time. But for me, I really feel it now when I'm really anxious. I know like there's an alarm bell ringing, but sometimes it can also happen in my sleep. So it's so unpredictable sometimes. Yes, but also actually when I put the dots together, I can see a stroke coming or a seizure coming. So it's a build-up of situations, and some girlfriends already know, like, Alja, be careful, and then
even they are aware now.
Yeah, they know. They saw me as well in strokes. So then I think it's also something that you just feel you need to be aware of. But of course, if I would be on a stage, I didn't have an epilepsy aanval. Epilepsy or a seizure situation when I'm on stage, or I've never been on a stage as DJ at like full on crowd, but I mean like if I would be dancing in a festival or something. So either way, it didn't happen yet. I did happen after, maybe some nights after, or when I'm sleeping, or the day after. That happens when I'm very, very tired. But at that moment, I think I just collect all the energy because I loved it so much. I'm in the right moment, music, nice vibe.
What would you do if it happens right before the most important set of your life or during?
Oh, I think I remember when I went to work, I had a very bad stroke, 3 after each other. I was on the floor. I fell on the floor, I remember. And I just went to work. Yeah, I know it's really ridiculous. I shouldn't have done that, but
I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to
so
judge.
I would probably just when I have it before it, I would just probably play when I feel fine. During, I think people will be very worried. I think people will not allow me to play, probably.
They will see the shift. It's too taxing for you to continue doing.
Yeah, but if it would be happening, I would definitely also, when I know it's coming, I'd rather have a seizure coming before, let it go, then hold it back, and then have a attack on stage. You know what I mean?
What does it mean to hold it back? I understand. I think I understand in the context what you mean, but can you explain it?
So sometimes when I feel it's coming and I'm outside or it's busy or something, I just keep it in.
You don't confront it.
No,
you don't accept
I don't let it go immediately. Because I remember the last seizure was it was an epilepsy seizure of 20 to 30 minutes, and I was on the street. I say to my best friend, "It's happening. I feel it coming. I need to be. My breathing is different. Everything changes. Getting panic attack. So, and then we're suddenly inside, and I let it go, and then of course there's no stopping. But I don't know how long I can hold it for. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So we talked about music and what influence it had on you in your journey. But there's more. there's more to it. You're not only playing music, but you're also now working for an organization where music is central, but not only music, but also visuals. It's a very special concept. I think it's called WOOM.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about why you decided to join this organization and what your job is within the organization?
Well, job is a big word. Let's say it's a collaboration, more of that. It doesn't feel like a job, let's say, put it that way. So actually how it started was, let's say, WOOM is a sort of new visionary immersive place in Antwerp, meaning that visuals will be seen all over the place, on the ceiling, the walls, and beneath you. So it has this visual effects, which is really cool to see also when you have a DJ playing, and it's like sometimes team wise they adjust the visuals. Sometimes it's also AI structured, and or they make like a sort of a, how do you say that? They make them their own
visuals.
Yeah. And because it's so immersive and so innovative, it's the first place in Antwerp that has this whole placement. And for me, why I wanted to collab with them is because in Paris was the first one I saw. So it's actually also a museum. It's Dive and it's WOOM. WOOM in sort of events and nights life. And then you have Dive. It's whenever when it's daytime, you have let's say Monet. They do a whole visual art show. You can see his whole visuals and art pieces passing, or like from Van Gogh or from Frida Kahlo, for example, I saw as well in Brussels. So it started when I was in Paris and I really loved it so much. The first one was from Klimt, I saw. And in Paris, it was really huge, really, really massive, so beautiful. And well, to write music, and it brings you into a journey. And then it came in Brussels, but it was not the same as in Paris. So you didn't have the ceiling. Sometimes only the walls that was visualized. And the effects were only on the walls or the floor. And then when I heard it was in Antwerp, I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. Because I remember when I was in Paris, I was like, this should be in Antwerp.
Mm-hmm.
This should be so cool.
I did, by the way, Van Gogh in Antwerp a couple of years ago, and I loved it.
Where was that?
The guy.
Ah, yeah, that was in the the hangar.
It was outside, like there was it was in the hangar. Close to Club Vaag.
Exactly. So now I think the whole thing moved to WOOM, which it's a nice experience, isn't it?
I used to be a VJ, right? At parties. I didn't only film; I was also doing the visuals.
Yeah.
And I experimented a lot with it.
Yeah.
Also by projecting things onto 3D objects. Yeah. So I was the first one, to be interested in this.
And how was your experience then with the one in Antwerp? Did you like it, or was it
So the only one I did was the one in Antwerp. Okay. So the only art show, fully immersive art show that I did was in Antwerp. Mm-hmm. All the other visuals I'm talking about were just my personal experimentations. How was my experience there? Yeah, it was amazing. And yes, you're right. There they also did project on every single wall.
Yeah.
They also had VR goggles. It was Van Gogh. So when he was in the south of France, he was living in this little house, and there was these fields outside, and he would, story goes that he would go outside and into the field, and then, he would make these paintings based on this kind of path that he was making between the village and the little house that he was staying at. Mm-hmm. And what they did with the VR is it was quite insane. Like they, instead of making the world look real, they made the whole entire world or the simulation look like it was a painting.
Oh, cool.
And then, he would wake up in that home that he was staying at. What I found really impressive, but then again, it's VR. It's not the same as the projections. Mm-hmm. Okay. But basically the whole world or the whole reality was a painting, but you would see him move throughout this painting, this world. And then, at some point he would look at the field, and then the view would stop, and then a sort of frame would draw itself around, a particular view in the field. And that is actually one of his paintings. And so you keep walking down this path and he's looking left and right or up and down. And wherever he's looking, at a certain point it stops, and then all of a sudden it becomes a painting.
Painting again.
But
Cool.
the whole thing is a painting.
Yeah.
So you're just it's like, you know, when you do these maybe like forest walks,
Yeah.
sometimes you have these boards that they have.
Yeah. And then you can see through it and it's like a nice view.
Yeah, so basically they
Yes.
add a frame, you know, in the middle of the nature, and all of a sudden you're framing the nature as if it's a painting.
Yeah.
Only this was like meta, and like you're already in the painting, but then you're framing a painting within a painting. I know it was next level kind of shit that you couldn't see at the time that the artist made it.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're really going into it, it's interesting, an interesting path to look at what some artists have done and what we call the greats. And you get to somehow with technology experience it from a different angle. And I'm really critical about, you know, you can't just take a painting from an artist and reappropriate it to your little VR show or whatever. You can't just do that. So there has to be, I can't name the rules, but there has to be certain rules that are respected to keep the integrity of the work, right? I felt like they did that.
Well, that's nice.
And so then the show gets the value.
Yeah.
Because who's organizing the show? That's not a, maybe they're artists as well, but also it's an organization which wants to make money.
Also, of course, everything is marketing these days, of course,
Right, but keeping certain integrity was really key for me in this new experience, and I just kind of wanted to add that because the space you're working in, I haven't been there, so I can't say to which level it's artistic, but if I imagine the Van Gogh experience with a DJ.
Yeah, I think
you know it adds a different angle. I can't say anything else about the integrity of it. You could probably tell me, and obviously you decided to go there, so you must find it interesting. But the extra twist, I haven't experienced it, and so I'm really actually gonna take you up on your offer that you did earlier, and I want to come and check it out.
Yeah, you should definitely, because they're closing also for the summer for the nightlife. I think the last one will be 24th of May. So yeah, definitely welcome to join.
Can you tell us a little bit more, maybe for the viewer who is watching, who is interested in seeing this before, the season ends? Where can they go in Antwerp? What can they expect in really short? What can they see?
Yeah, so you can definitely see it in the daytime with the artist paintings. I think Monet is playing it this moment, if I'm right. It's just a beautiful experience, come in silence and let yourself be immersed with visuals, and also it plays a little bit with the artist's character, because if I experienced the one with Frida Kahlo, and her character was also showed in the way they made the videos and the music, Mexican vibe. So it's with Monet the same. So you have this feeling that you can just travel for a moment away from the busy city, because it's also in a very busy area, Carnotstraat in Antwerp. And when you come inside and you are in this beautiful environment with the arts around you, and yes, of course, it's new, but I always think like innovation, and this is also just a baby step into a new sort of art viewing, because I think art will be also protected much more than before. And I think if you can experience art just for a moment to escape very privately, you observe, it's a sort of a meditation for me as well. So I think it's a nice experience. And yes, it's short and it's different, and you need to respect the artists, which they all also really do, in my opinion. Just another way of looking at the art. Of course, seeing the painting is much better. Of course, yeah. Yeah, definitely. You're welcome. Yes, for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I will come. I will come and check it out.
Yes, it will be nice.
What's the date again, the last one?
24th of May. It's a Saturday.
Is there anything that I should know before I come? Like, how do I come? How do I prepare myself? Or is it just literally you bring your ass over there and open your eyes?
Yeah, you just be yourself. You can come. But there's, of course, if you want to do the daytime and dive, it's the whole day it's open. I'm not sure at the time. Don't ask me about the timetable, but you can be there from 10 o'clock, I think, till approximately 5 or 6
AM or
no,
PM?
Yeah,
It's a day thing.
10 a.m. till 12, and then 12 p.m. till 6 p.m.
Oh, so it's like a museum.
It's a day thing. Yeah, it's like a museum actually.
Mhm.
And then in the evening, it will shift to there's also a cocktail event that you can attend with 80s music. It's like really, really entertaining. Nice if you want to have some boys together, friends together, family together, and have fun with singing and some live acts, like dressed up acts. And then in the evening, it turns into a party. So you can have, it's actually really, really nice.
Oh, so
Yeah.
we're talking about a new sort of
Event location.
I was gonna say
Multidimensional, yeah.
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 Yeah, it's more than a museum, it's more than a party, and it's more than a cocktail drink.
Yeah, and it's also, I think it's just in the footsteps of something new. I think this one is already a huge in comparison with the ones I saw in Brussels.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you say with the VR, like the VR glasses, it would be so amazing if you can have like some glasses on and everything is like 3D or something like that. That would be the next level, of course. But yeah, I think it's a visionary. It's just a start from something bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at compute power and AI, the things that can be generated, for example, imagine thousands of artworks. Yeah, actually, I want to take that word back because I was going to say, imagine thousands of artworks being generated, at the moment itself.
Yeah.
But then again, if AI is generating thousands of artworks, like then it wouldn't be that creative because AI is not an artist.
No, but
but I'm trying to imagine in my without having seen what it's like, I'm trying to already imagine what it could be like because you're saying it's only baby steps. What does the future bring?
Yeah, exactly.
I was trying to imagine it, but my reasoning is not on point yet.
No. I think if you of course AI maybe it's under labeled, but there are also nice visuals that you like. If you're there and you have witnessed like a full black room with a nice eye, and suddenly you see thousands of eyes around you, like, and then it's just a one nice thing after each other. So you just have to experience it. Mm-hmm. I can't really explain it to you, but it's really something you should see and feel by yourself. Yeah. So
it reminds me. I went recently to a museum in Amsterdam, and I think it was some type of nightlife museum, which was actually designed by some of the light guys that work for Tomorrowland.
Uh-huh.
And they had also all these projections on the walls, and part of the experience is a swing. And so you have these visuals which are on the wall in front of you, and then you're sitting on the swing, but the swing is kind of connected with motion sensors.
Oh, wow.
And every time you swing closer to the wall's visuals go further, as if you're swinging out into the visual.
And then I can imagine.
You go back, and then the visual kind of
it moves with the
physical thing, which is the swing where you're sitting on. So whatever the swing is doing going forward, the visual is reacting. You're going backward, the visual is reacting, and then it starts exaggerating. So like first it swings, and then it swings back, and then all of a sudden the time changes and it's afternoon, and then you swing back and it's evening, and then start seeing stars falling down. And
that's so cool.
And so like once you have this extra dimension, you're not bound to the normal
so you
laws.
let yourself immerse, right? You let yourself just
yes,
and that's the whole point. Just let people be in the present moment, and your senses will be entertained in different kind of ways.
And they use music and visuals together, the audio visual experience. I cannot remember if there was smell also, but that would be a plus.
That would be next level,
because then you're already working on
the senses, all senses almost. Except taste should also be there as well.
Well, you get to drink a cocktail afterwards.
Well, no, definitely welcome. Yes. Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I want to start closing off with you, but there's something really important that I want to say, and that is that on most of the podcasts that I do here, I always invite people who are entrepreneurs. You know, we're doing business, but something particular about you that should be noted is that you have a very entrepreneurial mind, and you also let me know that before you were also independent, or at least zelfstandig bij beroep.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you were, but it doesn't really matter.
Self-employed.
Self-employed.
Yeah.
But now, because of your condition, you're not allowed to work.
No. Yeah.
And so I still wanted you here on a podcast because I think it means something.
Yeah.
Because you haven't said anything about it, you know, on a podcast yet. But the truth is that you're doing everything for free.
Yeah.
And that is not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Because what I look for is, you know, grit, motivation, passion, you know, for the things that you do. And you have all of those, and yet you're not allowed to work. And I kind of wanted to just check in with you, like how that makes you feel, and how you deal with that.
Right. Wow. Thank you for the question. I think it's a big thing, actually. Yeah, because it's for free. For free, you shouldn't do everything for free, of course, because you want to live, right? We have to pay our bills and everything. But for now, after I think teaching was too difficult, of course, because of my condition. I worked for 5 months again, but got sick a lot. Made a decision not teach anymore and stop working and work on myself, more of the things that I like. The thing is, if you do things without any expectation and you just feel like I like to do and I like to support and I like to be in environments that I also support and vice versa, feeling the appreciation first from the people and also for the things that you do is key to make a foundation. So either way, this is also an investment. It seems for free, but it's in the long run an investment for myself. So for me, I see it more as a promo edition for myself than
networking, perhaps.
Networking, exactly, and just showing myself. And of course, I still need to learn a lot, especially on DJing. So for me, this is also opportunities to show, even if I make a mistake, it's fine. I'm learning, and I don't want to do anything else than making mistakes now, because I want to see where I need to learn and I need to be adjusting myself. So is it for free? It sounds like it, but at the end, it shouldn't be necessarily a word that should be permanent in my way. I think if you really know what you're doing after, let's say 6 months or 1 year of promoting yourself, being recognized and showing yourself and being good at something and really people appreciating it, of course, would be better if, recognition is something that everybody wants in a way. So yeah, for now, I feel like it's okay what I'm doing because I'm happy with whatever I have. I'm happy with the support I have. I'm happy with the friends that I'm making, with the connections I'm making. And yes, I have been doing a lot of things like in events and yoga teaching and being self-employed. But did that made me happy necessarily? Maybe not. Maybe it gave me too much pressure to myself that I had to do it. You know what I mean? So
it's like taking a sabbatical at home.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. It's more of
reframing yourself.
Reframing myself, exactly. And seeing the opportunities that feel good, much more than just money, and allowing myself to feel in a group of people that appreciate you. And I think that is the most important thing right now. Finding my tribe and collecting my tribe from people who are there, people who I can learn from, want to learn me, see that there's a will. And that's the most important thing right now. Not particularly because you can call, for example, WE.ARE as a job, but it's not really a job. It's because I really, really, really am a fan of their project.
Yeah, but even if you're earning money you do something out of passion, it never feels like a job, right?
Exactly. And if there comes money in there, of course, that's like a bonus, and it's like a good thing if that would be rolling. And because I can imagine if you want to work for Tomorrowland, for example, some people will say, I'll do it for free, or I do it for less money but that's also not the point. I think at a certain moment you need to have value in the things.
Yes. Yeah, of course. And it's a whole different conversation. But like if you underprice yourself, people won't value you.
Exactly.
But you, if I understand it correctly, it's not only a choice because you are considered as someone who's disabled.
But you're completely 100%.
But you are not really supposed to be working.
No.
In the first place.
No, it's up to by the doctor and the knowledge because I'm totally. I can work. It's possible, and I did it for 5 months. But I need to be honest also to know: is my body getting sick? Do I have a lot of extra stress? Which I love working. I mean, everybody who knows me, I go to work with pleasure. I just need to be realistic for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to build a life that I feel that it's only joy. Like if I go to work, it's not working. It's just something that I really, really like to do.
Something that gives you energy.
Exactly.
Which makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I have 2 more questions for you.
Go for it.
Are you ready? So, what was your dream when you were a little girl?
To be an artist.
Okay, that was really quick.
Okay.
Perfect. And what is your dream now?
To be an artist and myself. Yeah.
Your dream hasn't changed?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's lovely. And
well, to be an artist, you are an artist or not?
That was my next question. So, like when will you be an artist, or are you not already?
You're always an artist. Once I think you do what you like. You're an artist if you're a doctor or a plastic surgeon and you love what you do. You're an artist in your field. So I think everybody's an artist in any kind of way. You as well with your podcast, how you set things up and
that may be, but I do make a very clear distinction between an artist and a creator. So for me, a creator is someone who is creative or cannot help himself but to do creative things. But an artist is someone who uses creativity to communicate the message.
Well, both ways then. I think, I don't know.
An artist can be a creator. But a creator is not necessarily an artist.
No, I think.
And so when you say everybody is an artist, I'm not sure everybody is willing to communicate with their creativity to that point that you can call it an artist. Some people are like, I think everybody is creative in a way because, you know, when you do problem solving, you know, even at school, you have to solve a math problem. Yeah. That's creative because you're solving problems. You're using your imagination in order to, but that doesn't mean that you're using your imagination to communicate with other people deeper truths about math problems. No. Right?
Yeah.
That's how I see the distinction. And that's why I ask you the question.
But isn't it always also like how you write your maths down, which pen you use, how you explain? So I think for me, as an artist, I mean, for example, like the surgeon, the way he saws the wound, the way he communicates his affection and his passion. Of course, not everybody is an artist. Some people are totally not creative. Some people are just good in reading and that's it. But
I'm not sure if I agree with you.
I don't know.
I think the people who say they aren't creative are lying.
Could be.
There are, of course, some people who but it's my opinion. This is also like the podcast is supposed to be more documentary style. Like it's not supposed to be about my opinion, but I honestly, truly believe that we as a human species have a gift of creativity, which means that you're able to analyze certain, you know, aspects in life and connect dots.
Yeah, because solution solving is also being creative.
It's connecting dots, and everyone has to solve problems in their life. So how can you not be creative?
That's true.
But it doesn't mean you're an artist. For me, personally.
Maybe.
That's my opinion.
I think the most important thing is just wanting to be yourself, isn't it?
Sure.
Isn't it? Isn't it that's the main goal? Be yourself.
Sure.
Being who you are at any certain moment. The way you speak, the way you act, the way you dress yourself, the way you want to show yourself tomorrow. And the way you are is a transaction of, I think, a transition of the things you've been gone through or happens with you tomorrow or the day before. So I don't know if this is exactly what you wanted, but to say I want to be an artist, I think you just are who you are. And of course, if I would choose to be something now, and of course then I'll be labeling myself again, but I don't know, just be exactly who I am and be here and be present and be aware of a good feeling, peace, joy. And if there's no joy, fine, then accept the sadness, you know what I mean? Something like that, or whatever it is. Yeah. Is it whatever I am? Tomorrow maybe I'll be painting, maybe not. I should have been painting maybe, you know, but expressing yourself in any kind of way. That's the most important thing. Yeah.
If you ever had kids, what advice would you give them
Ooh la la.
as main life advice? It doesn't necessarily have to touch, creativity. It can. But I find it always really interesting to ask this question because when I do, people really open up about what their true values, are and what they want to pass on. And, as a beautiful way to close a podcast, I want to ask you what it is that you want to pass on that really touches you the most. And maybe,
It's a difficult one.
It is a difficult one,
Yeah.
like, because you don't have the kids, you don't have to think
Use
about
sunscreen. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, don't. I have no idea. I don't have kids. My parents always gave me an advice, and he didn't know it was turning against him. And he said, always be critical about anything that you read or somebody tells you. And then before I was a little girl that was critical when he said something to me. And then he looked at me like, oh, damn, my advice is turning up against my... So I have no idea. Oh my God, it's a really difficult question. What would you say? I mean...
I think that my conclusion is that, we talked about like a few of these pivotal moments in your life where you had to, really choose who you wanted to be. And deep down inside, I think we all know the things that we, in our hearts of hearts want or have to do, in order to become a better version of ourselves. And I think the more that you don't deal with these things, the shittier your kids are going to be. Then my advice would be to myself, like, deal with your shit, solve, issues the best you can.
Mm-hmm.
And only then, you can show by example.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say anything to my kids. I would be.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good advice. I think that could be helpful for sure.
But then again, I don't have kids.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, oh my God. No, I think maybe what I would think also would be good is like, I think the kids would give me more advice. I always learn so much from kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't hang around with kids enough to learn something from them.
I love kids. I love kids. I adore them. They're so beautiful. And I always think some parents don't know they're giving them lessons. I see it in front of me and I'm like, you have no clue. Your kid has much more like things to say to you as advice. But I don't know. Express yourself. I think for me, if I would have a daughter or a son, just express it. You're angry, show it to me. You're sad, burst out in tears, dance, do crazy, whatever it is, show yourself like completely. That would be my advice. Not even. I think it happens when you're small automatically.
I think that's beautiful.
I don't know, yeah.
I think it's beautiful. There's a few guests in the podcast who have more or less said the similar answer.
Oh, there you go.
So I like it.
So like-minded people. Cool. Yeah. Nice.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for the invitation. Really, it was really nice. I didn't know I was talking for 2-3 hours almost.
About 2.5.
Wow. It's a lot of talking.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it so much, really.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.